Hello, Matt.
Hey Olivia, how you doing?
Fine. I just need to boost my speakerphone. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Okay. Is there any trace of COVID-19 around you?
Well, not in my household, but
I hope
uh,
so.
the state that I live in, Oregon, had their first case, first official case, or first confirmed case. I'm sure there's many more that are spreading, but first confirmed case about a week ago, and it
Mhm.
was in a neighborhood that's like 5 minutes from me.
Ooh.
So we'll see. We'll see
Uh,
what happens. We've got like a few weeks of food and water just in case we got to like quarantine ourselves.
uh,
Um,
and I guess you must be quite careful due to some family condition now,
yeah, yeah,
which is good,
yeah.
but a bit frightening somehow.
It is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like I'm gonna do everything I can, but I'm not gonna stress out about it. I'm not gonna make it like what I mean. It is what it is. You do the stuff that you have control over, and then
Yeah,
you try to live with whatever happens.
yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
We had a concern about one of our students was traveling, coming from China somehow, and who visited the Venice area in Italy.
Mm.
Was, she had some fever, and so she got tested, but fortunately that wasn't a declared case, so that wasn't the right virus. So everybody's relieved, but there was kind of a panic on the campus. The students were worried, the parents were calling, and no one could give any information.
Hmm.
So that was a bit stressful.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's probably not as bad as the season flu. So anyway, most of the people are probably safe. Hey, hi, Lisa.
Hello, how are you?
Fine. And you?
Sorry, I'm looking at something real quick because I think I might be able to show Olivier something that he might find interesting.
Okay.
I'm just taking a second to make sure that I can, and if I can, I'll do it, and if not, we'll move on.
That's a teasing.
Yeah, yeah, I realize that. Sorry about that. Give me a second.
You're welcome. By the way, I'm trying this new speakerphone device, so that's quite a new gadget, and so far it's the sound is great. So
Oh, cool. Okay, so let's see. Let's go to the agenda. Fix and post stats spreadsheet. Let me do that first. That's easy. Everything in that to do is done except one thing, and that's because I don't think it's possible. And let me share my screen so you see what I'm talking about. Boop. Okay, so this is the NRE Labs weekly stats. We put this spreadsheet together a long time ago for packet pushers originally, but we've been sort of adding people to it over time. It's basically an export of the data that we're already collecting in InfluxDB for lesson usage. So it's a way of gaining access to that data without having to worry about InfluxDB queries. I'd still like to get to a point where we can publicly allow people to read our raw InfluxDB data, which would make this kind of not necessary, but then it would also make you have to know how to do that. So this is fine for now. The data, we started collecting this data, or at least exporting it to the spreadsheet back in April of 2019. Probably have even more data in InfluxDB that we could add to as well, but this is fine for now. And you can see I remedied the last week. Last week we showed this. There was an issue where I only got up to November, and then there was a huge gap because apparently the Google Sheets don't add. It doesn't automatically add columns when you try to add data via their API, which is kind of weird. I don't really know why that's the case, but whatever. So basically, the data was still in our database, in our TSDB, but it wasn't being exported to this spreadsheet because it didn't have room, apparently, literally. So I fixed that, and then I went back and I added. I went back and I requeried those weeks and added them to this spreadsheet. So we have all the way through from April, and you can see November. This is about where it stopped. So I added everything after this myself just last night, up through 2-3, which is where I found the problem in it and fixed it, so it was automatically being added again. So I took all of that data and I combined it together, and now we have the full data set from April to today. So that exists. I threw together a few graphs just for funsies. As you can imagine, basically from here until about here is on the old site, which had the old lesson catalog, which had more or less a static order. I don't know I can't remember if it was alphabetical or what, but the introduction to YAML lesson 1 pretty much every day. But now it's a crapshoot. Now it's totally randomized. You can see Ansible is pretty dominant, which is expected. But then you can see little races. I'd like to drill into this once we have a few more weeks of data to gather. But you can see that there is no real clear necessarily second or third or fourth place. Not all the time. There are sort of swaps, which is kind of fun. And then totals. We have totals for that period of time. So all that's fixed. The one thing that's not fixed is actually sharing this. And I wanted to ask if this was the way that we wanted to make this data available, because if so, then we might want to consider moving the spreadsheet elsewhere, such as into an NRE Labs Google Drive. Right now it's in a Juniper Google Drive. It's just where we created it. So as a result, we can't share this with everybody. What we would have to do is if somebody wanted to view it, we can add it. We can add their email address manually, which is obviously, of course, possible, and we're happy to do that. As you can see, we've already done that with some people, but it doesn't really scale to it would be nice if we could post it publicly and have it just publicly readable. So I don't think that's possible if we keep it within the Google Drive that it's at. So the question then becomes, are we still sold on creating a Google Drive from the NRE Labs account and then moving this into that? Or did we want to take the opportunity to figure out even a better way to share this? Is this a good way to share this data?
So this is a Google Sheet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking that somehow it needs to live on the community site just because of all of the access challenges that Google Drive, Google anything tends to present. What I don't know is how easily a spreadsheet gets automatically updated, like a regular spreadsheet.
How easily a regular spreadsheet gets automatically updated? What do you mean, a regular spreadsheet?
Well, because you have to save each one as a separate file, right? Anytime you update it.
No, just this one spreadsheet.
If it were .xls is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we need to do that.
Just a dumb question. Would it be possible with Grafana?
Yeah, so that's kind of another thing that I think might be interesting.
I have no experience, so I'm just.
Well, no, you're right. In fact, very early on, what we did was we do have Grafana dashboards. Actually, I need to undo my changes here. I'll fix that later. We do have Grafana dashboards for everything, and actually early on, very early on in NRE Labs, what we did was we had a stats page baked into Antidote Web with you can actually embed these graphs as iframes into your page, and we did that. And the problem with that was that, you know, pretty much any time we changed the layout or anything like that, it made it impossible to update because Antidote Web is, you know, on a release cadence, and so it just made it not great. Well, now that we have a, you know, a sort of a main site that doesn't follow that cadence, we can update kind of whenever we want. That kind of reopens the possibility for just using Grafana directly again. And we can make, I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with Grafana, Lisa, but you can make all kinds of different, we're not limited just to what I've created here. Grafana is a full-on visualization tool. So if there's a visualization we think is necessary for the site, we could just create it even in a separate dashboard. Like we can keep this dashboard as useful to like me or other people that are running the site, but we can create a new dashboard that's explicitly used for sharing data on the website.
Yep. If we can use it that way, I think that's probably the best thing to do.
Okay. In that case,
if you need to copy paste to send it by mail to someone, a partner, it's probably easier with an Excel spreadsheet or a Google spreadsheet. But otherwise, for the public view, like curiosity, general.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that the data that's in the Google spreadsheet actually comes from InfluxDB, which Grafana is showing here.
Yeah.
So in any case, all we're doing is just sort of repeating that data in general anyway. So why not just go straight to the source?
Unless you need to reconcile if there is breakage, like you did, and something like that. But otherwise,
that's true. You're right. Yeah.
Like the last month or last week, normally that should be fine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
I don't have any need personally, so.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll look into that and see if we can do something. And of course, we can always iterate on it. We don't have to stick with what we do initially. Lisa, can you take a second to talk us through the user survey draft?
Yes. So let's see, where did I put it? I think I put it actually in my drive, but we can move it to the community page or wherever. But basically, the goal was to better understand who's using the site and what they're getting out of it, what they want to get out of it. And also I threw in a couple of questions at the end about, you know, would you like to be involved and do you need help getting involved? So we just need to decide if there are any tweaks we need to make to the questions. And then we need to decide when we're going to release the survey and how we're going to promote it and how long we're going to run it.
Okay, so you want to get like feedback on the questions over the next week and then publish it next week?
Well, we need a little bit more forethought than that. So we were going to talk to packet pushers about helping promote it.
Sure.
And we were also talking about putting a banner on the site itself.
That's right. What did I say about that?
And you said you're going to have to look into it.
Yeah, for the whole site, yeah, probably. Okay, I'll put more thought into that.
So yeah, so once because it's not. I mean, if it were WordPress, I could just go do it myself. Because it's not. I'm going to have to spend a little time learning how to operate the thing, and I don't have a high degree of confidence that I could just easily do it.
Okay, I will look into that. Okay, anything else there?
I think that's it.
Okay, so curriculum, the NRE Labs curriculum version 1.1.1 went out yesterday. That is a pretty minor release. So it's just a new section. It's a new stage on the Git lesson, so that's per the schedule. That this is sort of like we had a 3-week gap in between the relaunch and this next version because I wanted to start on the top of the month and then do one in the middle of the month. So this is sort of officially getting us onto that 2-week cadence. So that's pretty cool, and I'm eager to get in to just keep going on this cadence, doing releases every 2 weeks, even though they're very minor. I think that's good. Okay, so that's out. The Labs and Latte video I recorded and edited yesterday. That's also going out probably. I can't remember if I said 8:20 or 8:30, but it's literally gonna get published probably while we're on this call. So we'll see that. And then the last thing is just an update on the Antidote core rewrite. You'll notice I'm not using the name Syringe because I actually I've renamed it almost entirely in my repo as Antidote core. So bye Syringe. The thing I wanted to show was one of the things it's a nice byproduct of the way that it's being built, which has been sort of in place for a while, but I only recently added tooling to sort of exploit this and show it. If you compile it and you run it, so Antidote D is the server for running this. You can run it just using that command, and then you pass it a config file. I've moved away from environment variables because I was tired of sort of environment variable creep, so I put everything in a YAML file, and it's a lot nicer now. The other thing is the way that Antidote handles data now, the way that it handles its own state is greatly simplified, but also centralized. So there's now one place to go inside of Antidote to know what state certain things are at. That seems like it's fairly straightforward and expected, but the way it grew sort of organically, it actually meant that the API server had some of the state and the scheduler had other pieces of the state and some state was elsewhere. It's just really bad. It grew organically that way, and this is a chance for me to reset that and make it sensible. And so as a result of that, we have centralized models for everything. And also what that means is we can now modularize the entire deployment. So if you look at, for instance, the config that I mentioned, it's a text file now instead of an environment variable. You can see that there is a field called enabled services. And so we can actually disable the scheduler. So that what that means is only the API is running and the scheduler for actually working with Kubernetes is not running at all. And that's okay because that's literally how it was built. Previously, this was not possible. Now you're asking probably, why would I want to do this? Well, imagine you're working on the web UI and you would like to make some changes. Well, previously, the way that we made that possible is through something called Syringe D mock, because that provided a fake API for you to do that on top of. And that's necessary because you don't want to have a full-blown Kubernetes cluster if you just want to make some web changes, right? You just need a fake API with some data. That's all you need.
Matt?
The problem was, yeah, go ahead, Olivier.
Yeah, just a question. When you mention services, is it like microservices, or is it just the binding of in the executable? There's still
they're Go routines, so they're not separate processes.
Yeah. Okay. Not yet.
Yep. It's probably not ever. That was one of the things in MP1 that I said I was going to explore, but I've kind of decided not to do that, just because it doesn't seem necessary. They're separate in terms of the way that they're modularized. So in terms of reasoning about them, that definitely has been accomplished, but I see no evidence to suggest that we absolutely need to break them out into separate processes today. Now, the good news is all of the work that I'm doing now makes that still very possible and definitely easier than it would have been before. So that's something we can still consider doing. But for now, I think it's good to keep everything in one application. It keeps things a lot simpler.
Okay.
But what you can do is you can just in the startup of Syringe D, what it does is it evaluates this list and it starts Go routines based off of the presence of strings within that list. And so if we do it this way, that means only the API is running. Now, Syringe D mock was a tool that I created. It was a statically compiled, just like, basically it was a way for me to bake in a bunch of YAML files into Syringe for the purposes of showing a sample data set. That's not great, because that means that if you wanted to change that data, you'd have to recompile Syringe, and you'd have to know how it works. In this model, in Antidote Core, instead, what you can do is you can start Syringe-D with just the API service running, and then using the tool anti-CTL, which is a tool that's explicitly used for basic. It's like an admin tool. It's not meant for regular users. It's just a companion tool for Antidote that allows you to manipulate and view state. And one of the commands is live lessons. So you can say, look, I want to see the list of live lessons that are present within the server. And you can see there are none because there are no lessons started. But we can also create our own live lesson state. Now, this is not obviously this isn't something that you'd want to do in a production instance, because it kind of injects state that you're making up. But if you're just testing, say, your changes to the web UI, and you'd like to manually create some state, then this is nice and useful. It allows you to basically say, hey, I want to fool the web UI into thinking that this lesson is started and it has these endpoints and all of that stuff. And so you can just put together your own JSON file, which looks like this. You can just put this together with the fake data that you want, and then you can run anti-CTL live lesson create, and as you can see, the API now thinks there's a lesson running.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give that treatment to everything. So it's so that it's not so that nothing is baked in. It's all basically just exposed via this tool. Live lessons, the canonical one, because that's what gets you the ability to sort of test things. But I'm sure there are others. So yeah, I'm gonna try to bake. I've been trying to bake that in across the board. The way that this change has turned into effectively a top to bottom rewrite. But the way it started was wanting to rethink the way that Antidote handled state, and not being able to do this one of the byproducts of the way that we were handling state before meant that we couldn't really do stuff like this, but now we can. So yeah, this is basically my current plan for replacing what we currently have in Syringe DMOC. And it seems like it works pretty well, because you can query it via the API and it shows up, and it doesn't change because the scheduler's not running, so this state won't change. There's nothing acting on it, right? So there's no process that's running within the code that updates the status or runs health checks or calls Kubernetes. It just stays this way because the API doesn't make those changes. If the scheduler's not running, this data is just going to stay the way that it is. But again, if you're just making web UI changes and tests, that's actually okay. So anyway, more on that later. I just wanted to give you a preview of that. That's now that the curriculum release is done for today, I have another 2 weeks where I can make progress on this, and hopefully in a week or two, I'll be able to show even more stuff. Still on target. I think this is still probably at least a month or two away, but definitely a lot of progress in the last month. Anybody have anything else?
Me?
Yeah, go for it.
So I just wanted to give you a quick update on my students' work. So I don't think I attended the meeting since the previous projects were delivered. Actually, they didn't deliver much, but if you remember, I had 2 students working on integration of Antidote with learning management systems through LTI.
Oh yeah.
So they had to tweak Syringe DMOC to try and add an API for post according to LTI. So I had a POC which gave some hints on feasibility, but it's very very raw, very minimal. But still, as you're rewriting Antidote core this way, I guess it will make it easier to test a kind of make hack approach for REST APIs or additional REST APIs.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, I haven't really gone into detail on the whole thing, the whole rewrite, but there's other parts that I think will be useful too as well. Because another part of MP1 that I did do was integrating with NATs. Even though we're not separate processes, there's still a lot of value in having a formalized pub subsystem. So if you can imagine those three services that I showed you in the config, which was stats, API, and scheduler, there could be a fourth one called LTI export or something like that. And its job basically is just to watch NATs for messages and export those messages as LTI packets, effectively.
So I would have to think about such an architecture, but so far the kind of stuff they struggled with was the ability to trigger OAuth queries, commands. So I don't know if you're familiar with OAuth 2.
Yeah.
So the trick is to cryptographically sign the post requests, for instance.
Yeah.
And so that required a bit of tweaking with the Go code they had and how to parse headers and stuff to make sure that they could verify the signature. So that was something that they added to the Syringe DMOC main executable. So I don't know about a distributed architecture with PubSub.
It should be the same. I mean, the only difference would be how that code is executed, how that code is actually triggered. But the way that it calls out to another API will almost certainly not be impacted, I would expect. It's just a matter of how it's called.
Yeah.
But I mean, definitely let me know when you got more on that, because I think in the new architecture, some of that might even be a little easier.
In any case, I'm still interested in testing Antidote in a real use case in our university. And I can imagine that at some point in time, we would need to identify users to kind of save their work or retrieve some lab results that could be sent to the professor, something like that. So we will need some kind of integration in any case. But it's probably post 1.0 or close to 1.0. And I can figure if I'm able to dedicate much effort on that anyway. And so there was another project that was about security, but it didn't deliver much. You're probably well aware of all security issues that could be found in the current platform.
Mm-hmm.
And so the third one that has just started is about Eclipse Theia integration. So, So it's a new team of students. They just got started and they basically tested what Stephen had contributed, which was a way to start Theia in an image. And so it looks like it could provide interesting features, like combined with what you showed us, the ability to generate config files from NTCTL, and an editor to edit YAML. So we are quite close to being able to contribute lessons using Antidote.
Nice, yeah. With the new, so that's another part of the change that I'm making. The Antidote CLI is going to have all of those wizards for creating content baked in, and then Yeah, yeah. So I'm pretty excited about that. That's going to be cool.
So what we're investigating is a bit of the larger project called Eclipse Che. So Eclipse Che is basically a way to provide Eclipse for developer teams over Kubernetes. So
Oh, cool.
Theia is just the web editor, the web IDE. So what I'm trying to understand is the added value of Eclipse Che. How would I manage things like workspaces, where a developer will save her files or to-do lists or stuff like that, which would give a hint on how maybe we could integrate such features like I want to perform labs, but in between, I want to retrieve my efforts so far, stop a lab, start again, and not forget everything.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know anything about the Che project, so I would mostly be interested in seeing how they do what they do, and if it's even compatible with the way we're doing stuff. Because it sounds like there's a certain manner of persistence involved there, and as you know, NRE Labs is not very persistent by design, right? We don't want to necessarily keep everything around, so we'll see. Yeah, happy to hear about that. I would love to hear more.
Yeah, me too, because they are working. I'm just monitoring.
Yeah.
Mentoring, not monitoring.
Same thing, right?
More or less.
You're basically, yeah. I don't know. I was going to make a witty analogy, but I don't have one.
Not necessary. So that's all I had. Oh yes, I had also questions about the future of self-medicate. As you probably noticed, if you followed some of my posts or issues.
Yes. I did, yeah.
Because I know that most of the problems were probably with Windows users, which is
actually no
part of the community, but still
the problems were across the board. There were a bunch of problems with a bunch of different people running a bunch of different operating systems.
Well, okay. So in any case, it would be great to have the 0.5 or something consistent with the production platform.
Yeah, that's understood. I should do that. That's totally fine. I'm happy to update it accordingly, and it's been on my list. I just haven't had time to get to it. So that's fine. Keeping it up to date with the latest platform and whatnot is totally fine. That's not a huge deal. The problem is the problem is when self-medicate becomes literally the only way people have to preview their content. If it's their only option, then that's a problem. So the model that I really would like to get to is, hey, self-medicate's out there, and you could use it for this if you feel like that's what you want. You want a local preview. You want this, you want the unique advantages of having this stuff running locally. Fine, self-medicate will stay around for that purpose. But in terms of we just get so many people that are just, look, I just want to add my script to the curriculum. What's the easiest way to do that? You know what I mean? And the answer cannot be go download self-medicate and struggle through all those hypervisor issues and tough luck because that's your only option. We don't have anything else for you. Like, that's painful. And it's actually been pretty bad for people that are contributing to the curriculum. I mean, we had a number of people contributing to the curriculum early on that were savvy enough to deal with it. And so we thought, okay, cool, this is working. But the problem is, I think like 90% of the people that really want to contribute to the curriculum aren't actually, necessarily automation experts. They're not vagrant experts. They don't know about all this stuff. They really
I understand.
know about the script.
I watched the recording of the past. I think it was the past meeting where you explained what you did with Red Hat. I think.
Yep.
So
and Sean from Red Hat is a smart guy. You know what I mean? Like, You know, he's not inexperienced with this stuff. If he's having issues with Vagrant and libvirt and all that stuff, and you know what I mean, and he knows, you know, how all that works, but he's still having issues and struggling through it, that's a problem. That's a problem that needs to get fixed. So anyway, I have no plans to deprecate self-medicate at all. That will stay around, and as my time permits, as my focuses permit, I will, you know, do my best to keep self-medicate updated with the latest changes so that it is at least useful in its current state for folks that absolutely need to use it.
It doesn't work in all cases, like all hypervisors or all OSs, but at least one where we have the ingress working, we have more or less most of the images working. And then we can have unofficial branches or alternative scripting, startup scripts, stuff like that. But at least I'm really puzzled about the new WebSSH2 ingress changes needed and stuff. So it's probably better if you do the work, and then we can try and support libvirt, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think the name of the game here will be stability. Getting self-medicate to a place where we really don't change it that much because there's not a need to. I think it's totally fine to not try to support all the things. Let's just pick an approach that works for most folks. Keep it simple and say, look, this is out there. If you want to use it, you got to use XYZ kind of stuff. I think not forcing everybody to use it for curriculum development will help with that too. Because then it's not a thing where it's like we're not in a situation where we have to point everybody to the one tool, and then therefore we have to make that tool work for everybody. If we're not pointing everybody to the tool to begin with, then we don't really have to make it work for everybody. We kind of just have to make it work for, you know, at least generally people that are running sensible stuff. And then we can just say, look, you know, this is out there. If you want this as an option, you got to use the hypervisor we support, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be better for everybody, not just the people that use it, because then again, it'll be stable and we won't have to worry about it being broken, but it's also easier on me and anybody else that's helping to maintain it. So anyway, all of that said, I still will update it to the latest platform and updating it so that, you know, Guacamole is not running inside of it and anything. I do have that actually in a PR. So I need to finish that PR and merge it, and that way everybody can use it. So I will still do that. I'm committed to that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is a good meeting. Thanks, Olivier, for joining. This is good. We usually get out about 15, 20 minutes in because it's usually just me and Lisa. Last week it was me and Lisa and Steven. So we got some folks showing up again, which is nice.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I think we can call it. Anything else, Lisa?
Nope.
Alrighty. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll talk next week.
All right. Bye.
Later.